Hey everybody, good evening. How are you? I'm having a little delay in my stream again. Not sure why that's happening, but my movements are like a baseball stadium. They're delayed. So, good evening. How is everybody? Hey, for the Cane Sprout, did you get the link? You're supposed to be in here, not out there. Cynthia has your link, and if you can, that would be awesome. So, I guess you have to come in with Google or Facebook if you can. Anyway, if you can do that, that would be awesome. We'd love to have you, unless you want to be a chat moderator. But we'd love to have you. Hey, everybody. Good night. Is in having a good night. Hope you're going jolly. It's late and it's a great time to gather. So I hope you're all going to have a sweet weekend and lots of fun wherever you be. We have some people here. They may be having a little trouble navigating getting on too. Not sure why, but anyway, I wanted to bring to you a very special, interesting group of people that are poised to do something very special in the world. In the past, you've actually heard me speak with them. Some of the interviews are there on the stream, and you can check that out. So, oh, we have another one coming. All right, so we've got Cynthia and Charlie with us. I've interviewed Cynthia and Charlie before, twice, actually, and in the last few nights on the chat here, Ron has been coming in and talking with us, and so he's been in there. We'd love to have him because, everybody there is kind of debating this issue, but they're working very hard. So let me give you a little. The Oregon the statewide Oregon Jural Assembly is poised to be perhaps the group of people that could actually bring this forward. And when Russell asked me to do that show, he also specifically asked me to bring them along as an alert, to like bring them into that conversation, right? So they've been asking for his hand or his assistance, and as you know, that he told you last night, that in fact the states never came back in. So technically speaking, according to him, there are no more states. And yeah, I can see it's a delayed audio. There's no reason for this. It wasn't, but now it suddenly is when I get on here. But imagine that. Right? I see my whole movement is delayed. And I don't know what to say to that. It's kind of odd because I have really good. It's them, not me. It's them. So we'll just put some light toward it, and we'll see if we can get everybody in here. I'm going to try and speak a little quicker tonight so we can keep this rolling. But look, just if you have to, just listen, and if it's delayed on your end, just listen, because he wanted these people to come the other night, and he wanted to say something to them or interact with them, and they've called out for his clarity and perhaps even his surety to assist them. These people are way showers. They're troopers on the forefront of the United States right now, and they are taking what they've done in a common law type scenario in their jural assembly, and they've broken down some really important doors even doing that. Then two of the ladies came along and they went to the Dallas seminar and they became live-life-claimants. There's another fellow who I'm looking for that'll hopefully come on in here. Oh, he's with us too. And he's a live-life-claimant and has been helping um, helping them and kind of assisting to lay the groundwork for grammar and for what they are actually doing. But before I bring them all in here, I think we should start with Ron Vrooman, because Ron has been the senior member there. And hi, Charlie. And so um, in doing that and bringing Ron in first, we can hear Ron's point of view, because he is one that's been, since last spring anyway, he had been diametrically opposed to the grammar, and there was no other system. So I think we should start there and hear what he has to say and why he feels that way, and then hear what they've actually been doing in the cases that they're assisting, the things that they're championing. Because remember, as I've always said, these people are all working together no matter what, and they're working together against the fraudulent system. They're working to bring that fraudulent system forward and sort of squash it. And they have gone up against, because I've been included in these emails, Anna von Rice, who we know is not really even a judge according to Russell. And they have stepped away from all of that and created their own momentum doing what they're doing. Now imagine, just from, this is my 2 cents, imagine if they then quantize that and put that into a particular move, and someone is here with them that has been a hand in that. So I want to hear all their points of view. It's really interesting. And well, Russell J. Gould truly may be the only way, yes, but these are people that have been at this prior to knowing about Russell, okay? So that's important. But also, some of them have become live life claimants, and they're working with that. So I'd like to welcome everybody in, say hello to everybody out there who's listening, who's come in, and who's come tonight to join in. All points of view are important here, okay? So just all points of view are important. And I'm going to start with Ron, and I'm going to bring him in first. I'm going to let him speak first and tell us why he stands in the position he does and what the Oregon Jural Assembly means to him. So welcome here, Ron Vrooman. Ron, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you, Winifred.
Nice to have you with us, Ron. You're here every night. I can't believe it. You're joining in on the chat, and so let's see if I can make this look a little better here. There we go. There we are.
You can't make me look better.
Yeah. All right, Ron. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you feel regarding why you entered in and created this Jural Assembly. Why did you do that?
Um, has Charlie offered a prayer yet?
Oh, is that what you wanted to start with? Well, we will come back to that when she begins her part.
I'll yield to the prayer.
Okay, we'll go to the prayer. All right, Charlie, you're on.
Here we are, beloved Creator of all that is and ever will be. We each stand tall as a fractal part of your magnificent creation, while at the same time are humbled by its magnificence. The immenseness and totality of it staggers the mind. By its very brightness, has the ability to blind the eye to the truths of things we should know or accept. How this is done is by allowing our disconnect with your divinity and that divinity within us. We here refuse to allow any of that darkening to blind us to the truth of who we are and our mission here at this time, right now. So we acknowledge with gratitude all that you have given us, and we wish for your continued grace. Let it be so, and so it is.
Thank you, Charlie.
Beautiful. All right, that's beautiful. Really. Charlie, I'm going to bring you back in as soon as Ron's done, and then we're going to go through this step by step, and then I'll have you all in. So thank you very much for that. That was beautiful. Okay, Ron, the floor is yours.
Oh boy. Like everybody else that has gone down this rabbit hole, I didn't go down it alone or start anything alone. Uh, I'm standing on shoulders. So 6 of us started the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. Uh, 3 left, 1 died, and Ray and I are still here.
Why did you
And
start the assembly? What was
because
the
we started a safety committee by the NLA, And we're looking for a way to have a grand jury so that we can bring this stuff to light and lawfully correct the situation. And I thought that the NLA and John Darash were going to do it, and they didn't. So I was vocal, and they kept throwing me out, and Laura kept bringing me back, and so then I just stayed out. And then we formed a safety committee to try and deal with all that was going on Oregon. You know, we didn't think this was going to happen on Oregon. Bundy was going to do all that dust up out there, and they were going to murder Lavoie. We didn't know any of that was going down. And then it was. And then so here we were. And we have to do what has to be done now. So that's what we did. We started a Jural Assembly. We got hooked up with an outfit named Jim Wright, and that didn't work. And we already knew Anna wasn't working. And I don't know why. She's smart, but she lies, and I don't know why. But in any case, Charlie and Cynthia came along, and William, and pretty soon we had several hundred members. And when we got 45, we formed a grand jury. And the grand jury heard the evidence and made a presentment to the 38 prosecutors on Oregon that Kate Brown, Ron Wyden, Jeff Merkley, and Suzanne Bonamici were all oath breakers, and they had no honor, and they couldn't hold a position of trust. So they had to leave. And boy, is it hard to get those people out. But we just kept doing one step at a time. How do you get rid of martial law? We didn't even know we were in martial law to start with. And how do you get rid of that? And we figured that one out and did it. And nobody offers rebuttal. And in common law and then the statutory de facto law form, it's the same. If you testify in the form of an affidavit of truth and it goes without rebuttal and it's signed, sealed, stamped, witness, and proof of service, in 30 days that becomes fact in law. So we just kept taking those facts in law one step at a time, and we had a hell of a team in place. And
So, Ron, what does common law mean to you, and what does the Constitution mean to you?
oh god. Common law, normal law, God's law. That's the law form. That it's like a little chant. Men and women with their progeny on the land and soil, without ruler and without subject. That's as high as you can go on this plane of Earth, Tierra Firma. That's as high as you can go. One step down from the Creator. I'm tearing up.
We're with you, Ron. High five, everybody. We're with you, Ron. This is an important moment for you, I know. This is your voice and your conviction all this time. Your heart.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
So let me see if I can get this out. Charlie frequently rescues me
Okay, I'll
in
bring
cases like
Charlie in
this.
to the rescue.
Thanks.
So I'll just say that she had asked you about what the Constitution means to you. I think that would be a great place if you could get to that. He works tirelessly on this. I can tell you.
The
Real-time healing, folks.
Constitution. Okay. That's a really good one. The Confederation and Perpetual Union of the 13 states that declared their independence named themselves the United States of America. And they governed with the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union for quite a while, and it wasn't working. So they needed to overhaul, update, whatever it was, they needed a fix. And the fix was the Constitution. And that's the United States of America's apostrophe S Constitution. In the English language, they own it. So it's nobody else's. It's not Constitution for the United States or Constitution of the United States. Whenever you see those games being played, you know that somebody's trying to run something in on you that is more than likely de facto. And so when men and women got their freedom and were one step below God, they wrote a document. And that document tried to encapsulate unalienable rights. Couldn't do it, but they got close. And that close is called original jurisdiction, where, shit, again, where men and women, after however many years from Hammurabi through all of whatever has happened to us, and we don't know until that time, men and women had never governed themselves without some form of government over them. And so for the first time, here it was. And to me, that's really important. And to get back to that law form where we are who we think we are, lawfully and legitimately. And when we get there, then we can go about correcting all of the issues that need to be corrected. And there's lots of them. But until you have a correct law form in place, you really can't go to law because you don't have it. You have de facto something else. On Oregon, we made it last year. I think it was November. We got all the paperwork done to correct the de facto takeover of the Oregon government by a incorporated governance. We found that point and corrected it on paper, lawfully and legitimately, and that was last November. Now we only have 32 more states and 17 more territories to go, and we'll be ready. I yield.
Very good, Charlie. This is Charlie White, and we've spoken with Charlie before. Welcome back, Charlie. Nice to have you.
Thank you for having us, Winifred. It's a treat. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Charlie, you are a live life claimant, and you are very active and had been even prior to your life claim in what you're doing currently. So can you expand on what Ron is talking about from the position of the current Jural Assembly?
Yes. Well, first of all, where Ron choked up is that, the level of work that we do is as servants, or, we are with Creator. We do not separate, and we do not put ourselves forward without acknowledging our connection to Creator, that we're really the foot soldiers for the divine law that needs to happen on the land for human, for men, women, and children. So that's foremost in our minds. And we came together from a lot of different concerns or interests, or, just fed up. So it's just been a learning process for us as a Jural Assembly. And so we learn, and as we learn, we teach. And that's really basically it, is that we are an outreach kind of organization who has just found each other by virtue of the divine. Our hearts are connected. We have actually found ourselves on the edge of what is coming in the mainstream, or coming up. For example, the oath issue is now a national dialogue. We've been working on the oaths as a Jural Assembly for a long time. We also know that the courts are corrupt, and we have been working on that from the beginning. And that's why Jural Assembly was formed, because we know that the judiciary is the enforcer, or seems to be. They have a heavy hand, and they with the American Bar Association and all of the bar associations have really altered our form of government, and our republic is not what we think or thought it was, by virtue of this heavy hand of the judiciary. So the fact that we are a Jural Assembly is really key. And we go back to the original Constitution of the United States of America. That's the one that Ron was referring to, and that has gotten lost to DC corporate United States. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
So you see that there's no validity in what Anna von Rice has done, and you have come up against different issues that you're assisting and trying to correct. Can you explain a few of those issues that you have taken on to maybe call out or correct the fraudulent system that you are standing?
It's a long list. Yes, well, I would say that, go ahead, Ron.
I can't say no validity in what Anna teaches, because she teaches a lot of good.
Yeah.
Okay. Charlie?
So, yeah, that was a premise. So one of the things that really got us in the very beginning, because we were just forming and becoming active and grappling with certain issues in terms of our local government with Kate Brown et al. And COVID came along. And all of a sudden we recognized that Oregon Health Authority has no authority over us. And the whole masking and vaxxing thing was just a pivotal point for us in terms of addressing all of the wrong issues on Oregon, including the Oregon Department of Education. So we have called out every single institution and organization and fraction of government that we can. That's why we call ourselves a provisional government, because here we are. We have, through their acquiescence and through our noticing and demanding that they self-correct, and they failed miserably. And so here we are, and we have been on the ball from the get-go. And COVID was a real inspirational kind of pivotal point for us, because people were fed up. People were, and it was real obvious where people stood. And so that was a key point.
How do you hold them accountable in your court? How do you bring someone to your court and hold them accountable?
Well,
You serve
our
them.
court,
Something.
yeah,
Yes?
our court is very different from from the, the conventional, the circuit, and all of the state and federal courts. We're not that kind of court. We're a common law court. So holding them accountable is simply noticing them, principal and agent and principal, and having them be told, we demand that they self-correct. We recognize what they have failed, where they have failed. They've failed in their own legal statutes and ordinances. They don't follow their own laws, but we're expected to. And so we call them on that. We feel that enforcement is basically demanding, but we don't force. We don't incarcerate. We don't any of that. We've given a lot of the work we've done to the DAs, and they're supposed to do that, but they've also failed. So we just keep going.
Because they're part of the fiction system. Now I want to bring in Cynthia Palmetier. Cynthia is also part of the assembly, and she's spoken with us prior. And she was also with me, along with Charlie, in Anaheim at the Truth Tour when Russell spoke. So Cynthia, welcome back, and nice to have you here. So let us know what it's like in some of the things that you're working on right now and where you feel you're headed. Where do you want to take this movement?
Muted.
You're muted. Yeah.
Okay. I'll speak for myself, and thank you, Winifred, for having us on. I'll speak for myself, but probably Charlie and Ron will agree. I want to see it headed to taking down the corporate government system as it sits right now in our state. And we can only take our states back. And each state needs to do their own work and take their state back so that we can take our nation back.
And when you take the nation back, how do you see that taking place from your point of view today?
Well, mostly I see there's two forms that I actually see it in. The first one is inside the courts.
Mm-hmm.
The courts are just an absolute scum bucket mess. I'm going to be nice about my words. I'll try not to swear too much. They're a mess. I just spent 2 weeks in Eugene in civil court, and which doesn't even exist in Oregon. Technically, lawfully, it doesn't exist. But there we were in a civil court with someone that is one of the Jural Assembly members. And it has nothing to do with the guy's guilt or not guilt. The guy's guilty of what that he's accused of. It has everything to do with jurisdiction and having, going before a jury of your peers and, going before a judge that has his oath in order that can show it to you and his bond in order that can show it to you. And, on and on and on. They're just, they do what they want, when they want, how they want. So that's number one. And we've made great progress into it. And the other way I see us taking it down is through the Oregon health authorities, the medical system, because of what the horrendous evil that they perpetrated into the medical world and everyone knows this. It goes worldwide. It's international. It's not just us. But again, you can only deal with where you're at and what you can accomplish. And I see I see what we're doing crumbling them. I really do. And do you mind if I read Article 1, Section 1 out of our Constitution? Because that is what the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly, the common law court, is based off of. This is what gives us the right to do what we do.
Okay.
Article 1, Section 1, we declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right, that all power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness. and they have at all times a right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper.
Very good. Now, I would like to introduce a live life claimant that's been assisting you, or maybe consulting with you, or having discussions with you regarding the quantum grammar system and using the grammar. So Cynthia and Charlie are live life claimants and went to Dallas and went to the workshop with Russell. And Kennan-Bruce Stenson also attended a workshop. I believe it was Salt Lake City, and he has knowledge that he is sharing, and they're having those discussions. So please welcome Kennan-Bruce Stenson. Hello. Nice to have you. Nice to see you. Welcome.
You too. Thanks for having me on. Seriously, gratitude for everything. Howdy, Ron. Howdy, Cynthia.
All right. So how does this blend together? Tell us, Kennan-Bruce, exactly what you've been doing there with this assembly.
I mean, it's hard to say exactly what I've been doing because, I mean, you know, most of us are in nonsense. So it's hard to say really any of us know what we're doing, except, you know, honestly, you know, the Most High, or the One Infinite Creator, more like, and Chief, I'd say, are the only ones that really seem like they know what they're doing. But you know, you ask, how does this blend together? And this is the thing. I'm just babbling here today, so nothing I'm saying is really factual. That being said, fact and fiction can't meet, as per what Chief's claim is. And well, when we're in fiction, there's a lot of complications that we tend to create for ourselves. And, you know, I've just been doing my best to kind of communicate and sort of get on the same page with folks who want to communicate and, you know, want to come from a place of being correct with yourself and the authenticity of your being, and others who interact with you, or, you know, Earth Act, if you follow my meaning there, or Terra Act, I guess. But
so,
like I said, I'm just babbling here today, so feel free to cut me off when I get.
But
rambling.
when you've met with them, what are the things that you offer and can share, and what have they sought from you as a claimant?
Well, in terms of what's been sought, it hasn't been clear. I remember Ron and I's first conversation over, I believe, Skype, and well, technically that in itself is violation of Title 18, 1343 on my part. But anyhow, I talked to Ron for about 2 hours with respect to my comprehension of the history of the United States bankruptcy timelines. And, you know, I was still new to the venue, the federal postal construct, and just learning as much as I could about the facts. And, you know, I kind of dipped my toes in the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. I liked the smell of what they were doing. And, you know, I knew that I was not really with the, I guess, correctness in getting involved with this, but sorry, cat's scratching at the door, wanting out. I'm gonna let myself yield to Ron.
Okay, Ron?
Courage.
Yeah.
What's courage?
Yeah, what is the definition of courage?
Kennan is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who wants to expand on that?
He's open. Kennan is a very sharing person, and he just allows himself to. He offers himself. Let's put it that way, for what he's learned, and you know, willing to be corrected or be wrong by someone else's opinion or judgment or whatever. Kennan is very present and very open and honest, and he's a light being. You know, he's very wonderful, and he just keeps going with what he has learned and what he knows, and is very open to share it.
Drives 2 hours by himself to show up.
Neat.
Yeah.
Kennan, please.
Get right in the get right in the face of a 6'9" sheriff and talk to him. Unafraid.
All right. Kennan, what were you going to say?
Gratitude. I'm not good with taking compliments. But this is the thing that I wanted to say is, someone put the term light being out there, and this is the beautiful thing is I'm not the only one. There are so many beautiful, courageous, intelligent light beings, star seeds, and multidimensional beings walking around on this plane, and that's just my comprehension of what I perceive to be the fact. And we're all here to help one another, to grow, enjoy the abundance of the earth, and not be trespassed upon. It's pretty simple living. If there's no injured parties, there's no danger to public safety, you're maintaining situational awareness, and you know where you're at in time and space to at least a fairly decent extent, there's no problems, I think. Unless, someone has knowledge of a problem, then once that knowledge comes forward, one can stop and correct under, for the title that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around some aspects of the grammar. And that's the thing, we're all learning together. And the point is that when we have knowledge of a wrong, we can stop and correct under Title 42, 1986. However you want to state that, either in the fiction or the fact.
Great. Okay, Charlie, what were you going to say?
Well, I just wanted to address something that Cynthia said, and that is take them down. Like we're not terrorists. We're not vigilantes, we're none of that. We're peace-loving men, women, and our progeny on the land, and we deserve to be free. We deserve to be able to function in our affairs, in our lives, with our children, enjoy our lives, feel abundance, all of the gifts and all of the unalienable rights that we were given by our Creator. So, it's not like taking it down. It's like we want to learn and have others learn and stand free as men and women, rather than, being forced and basically trafficked. And go ahead, Cynthia, because I know that objective.
Oh, yeah. I want to see the evil destroyed, and I see what they are as evil. So thus my choice of words. The structure needs to tumble down. It needs to come down like the walls of Jericho. They need to fall.
Kennan, what were you going to say?
Well, one, the term "they" is very ambiguous, and I don't remember the other thing that I think was more important to say. Got the brain fart moment. It's just accountability. Accountability is what I would say I want, and I'm doing my best to be that and embody that within, or I should say body that within myself, or you could even say vessel that within myself. But the system, it's already been taken down. Chief Russell -J Gould, if that is his factual name, he did it already. He did it. He is the world's biggest, excuse the language, but badass, frankly. And we also got another commander out there that goes kind of by Commander Kickass. And I want to give a shout out to him, as well as Sprout -Cast.
Very good. Yes, I've seen that name. So let's jump into this for a second. We have 3 live life claimants here. Okay. And Ron may or may not be on board with the grammar or the fact that Russell took everything down in 1999, which sort of negates everything that any fictional, including common law court, would be doing. So how do you, Charlie, and Cynthia feel about using the grammar in what you're doing, or do you? I mean, does it have a place? Can you see that place? Is there something that is being worked on there? Can you use that or not use that?
I think it's important that we incorporate it into our documents, because our documents are the evidence. They are the showing that we are doing the work of and for the people. And there are proof of the work that we're doing on behalf of, our freedom and our liberties. And to incorporate what Russell has done, I think, is an important element of that. I haven't done enough of it and of the study of it at this point to say a lot to that. I know that there's some resistance within our assembly to actually write it, but I also need to know more to be able to do it well. So I don't want to do it wrong. So
Maybe that's where Kennan comes in.
yeah, Kennan helps. Yeah.
Cynthia, what did you want to say about how you see this or feel about it? How does that blend together, or how do you use that?
I think it's important to speak grammatically. When I was in Bible college, I had issues doing syntaxing of scripture. I had to have an English major help me. And so I've actually learned a lot since I took the class, and what little studying I've actually done. I'll just say it that way. But yeah, I think it's important to tighten up our documents, to make them, to create in them they need to get tighter than what they are.
Well,
Where
either
there's no
they're written
full-
in the grammar or they're not written in the grammar.
Yeah.
So if they're written in the grammar, I think that the question is, the point is you guys are making waves and had been making waves and movement without using the grammar. You are standing on what you've learned, you've come together, and you're making movement. However, if the grammar even was utilized and the documents were brought into that proper parse syntax grammar, the question is, could there be a way that your state could be the first one that comes back in, because you're always talking about leading the way? So how do you propose leading the way? And Kennan, what do you see from your perspective of them leading the way, since you're there with them?
Big question. Big
Good.
question. It's hard to know where to start with answering that. I would like to see, some sort of union, or not union, but ion come out of this for the betterment of the quality of life. I only know what I know, and I was only given the tools that I've applied myself to comprehend and gain knowledge of how to use, because I didn't get any of this from the education system, or what should be the education system. But yeah, it's for me, it's just about getting the red tape out of the way, as long as there's no injured parties and no endangering and no danger to public safety, neutrality, and peace, to better the quality of life. Sorry if that's not coming out in a straight line, but
So when you talked to that big tall sheriff, what did you say to him?
well, I think he gave Ron his word that he talked to him, and Ron happened to be looking for him, and there was a couple times I spoke with him. I gave him, to the best of my ability, knowledge of the bankruptcy, and I think I ended up giving him the website link. I've been working on trying to, or not trying, as it said, do or do not. There is no try. But I did my best to cultivate a method of conveying closure in a very short, to the point way that it turned out to basically just be massive data dump into people's brains. And it's like it's curious when you experiment with this and you sort of see how people correspond with you and your knowledge from wherever they're coming from in their knowledge base, because we only know what we know until someone comes along and shows us something we don't know. That's something Russ has been pretty famous for saying, I'd say. It's just curious to see people's thinking sort of shut off when their brain goes into a fear state. You know what I mean? Have you guys witnessed that? People shift their posture or cross their arms. There's just so many
Look
social
around.
behavioral things. Say what?
They look around.
Yeah, and you can tell that, like, oh, I've lost you. So,
So what
there's
do the rest of you feel? What do you see as the here? How could you really take, or would you steps, because you kind of a foot in both, really?
I'd just like to say that since the workshop that Cynthia and I went to, when I either edit or write the documents that we provide, I really want to use positive language and the now time language. So I'm mindful of what I've learned, even though I'm not skilled at it by any means, but it has changed the way I read and write a document and how I see it. And so, I think the important part is the positivity of it. The past and the future don't exist in the now space, and I see the neutrality of that as being really critically important. I like it, and so I am mindful now when I write the document that there is that aspect of it that's really important.
Very good. And Ron, you've been opposed to this. What's your opposition?
I'm not sure it's opposition. I would love this to be part of the solution. I'm not against it. That's not my position. But I think it was either invented or discovered by, what was his name, Wayne, and then Russell got into it, and it's been refined since 20 some years of working with it. But that whole thing is one other layer of de facto between us and the original jurisdiction of what they were writing down for us to have, where we were free men and women, and the government was subjugated to us. And I'm not sure that we need quantum grammar to get us there. But I'm not sure that it's not the answer. That's not the position that I'm in. But if we didn't have it, we would still be able to get back to original jurisdiction. And maybe after we get to where law is law and there's no color in it and it's being done properly, then when we come away from that, redoing that's how I see it, as a giant redo of everything that was wrong. We get to correct coming back, and as we're coming back and correcting the paper and the documents and the fraud that has been coming at us for 160 or 112 years, depending upon where you're looking at it. Maybe we can get it written in the now and properly done,
Mhm.
so that we don't have to do this over again. And that's probably wrong, because I think it was Jefferson said you got to do it every 20 years.
Well, maybe you can get Russell's help to correctly bring that forward into a now space position that's in joinder, lawfully placed into joinder. And so, Cynthia, how do you feel about this?
Well, I think about it scripturally. So being in the now space and being using positive terms, as Charlie was talking about, as she writes the documents and stuff now, is important, because so as a man thinks, so he is, and whatever comes out of our mouth, we can actually create it in the spirit realm and ultimately into the earth. So I do find quantum grammar extremely important to learn and to know, just on that point alone. And
that's what Russell said in his talk the other night. He said just that. If you don't want to see it in your now space, you can basically hold a creative space of what you do want to see in your now space.
yeah. And I do know from a person that has a tendency in the past and even now can get very angry about stuff. I've seen things like go sideways really fast because of the energy that, each and every one of us possess when it comes to speaking negative and throwing out terminology like distance, or discover, or any of the no words, any of those words that are actually negative words that we don't even know that we've been speaking all this time,
or making contract with.
Yeah, or making contact with. Yes, and it's a very my hat's off to you for learning to speak with. I'm working on learning to speak the way that I need to speak. It's a
So
very difficult. It's difficult. It's not an easy
shift,
jump.
is it?
Yeah, no,
if you
it's
were
not.
brought up that way, it'd be easier. That's what Keenan was saying earlier.
Yes.
So go ahead, full colon Keenan, please.
Just 3 words: neuro-linguistic-gramming. I'll drop the pro out of that because that's another negative context. There's just so much negativity, and it is a really, if I tell myself it's difficult, it's going to be difficult to learn attentively, and have the focus and the drive to look at the facts, because I throw a lot of adjectives into what I say, and adjectives, they modify. It creates subjective interpretation or ambiguity, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? Anyone want to help me out?
Well,
Throw their thoughts out there on top of that.
you're talking about not having clarity, and you're aiming at having absolute clarity. In this case, it would be the correct communication and clear communication with the volition of thinking that you're seeking to see. I was going to say impart. I can't do that either. The volition of thinking that you're intending to communicate with, essentially. And it does make you stop and correct, and you really have to examine what your programming is. I think that's what you're talking about as well, the level of programming that you have.
Yeah, and in one of the seminars that Chief did back, I don't remember the year exactly. He mentioned how the grammar allows you to set terms, or set basically for you to be the one in control of what your mind and how your mind thinks. That's kind of the key with everything, because the mind is all. It's an alchemical law. We're part of the I don't know what you want to call it, and everyone has their own free will to believe what they want to believe. But in my worldview, we're part of the cosmic mind, the all that is, the force, whatever word term you want to throw onto that, source, Allah, one infinite creator, God. There's just so many interchangeable word terms. It's just, what do we all want to concur on? What do we want our world to look like? And what quality of life do we want to come with that world? Right now, we're trying to figure out what it looks like getting there. But I feel like that might just complicate things in terms of, I mean, I don't know. I kind of have the tendency to put the cart before the horse. So
Okay.
I'm not really...
Cynthia, what did you want to say?
So I said it. Read your little private chat. It's much easier when you're younger to get, when you're Kennan, when your brain is
Yeah.
has not gone down the same paths as most of us have. And I will say that it is hard to reprogram yourself, and it is reprogramming yourself. And I was resistant as a child, all growing up, and I was considered a troublemaker because of the stances I take on good and evil. And it's still no different, because ultimately right now, what I want to see is a world that my children and your children and everybody else on this call's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will have freedom to live as free people, persons, entities, whatever you want to call yourselves, whatever the proper, correct grammar is, you guys. That's what I want. That's the only reason I am doing what I do now, is because this has to stop. It is evil. It is evil, no matter how you look at it.
When we actually become in nature completely, it'll be interesting how we contract at that point, because you will be immediately communicating without all this intermediate interpretation. Kennan, go ahead.
The old white man talking head of the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly there brought up live-life-claimants. And, to connect with what you just said, Cynthia, this, to me, it's about our families, well, in a way, we are all family, however you want to connect that. But the work that Lavoie Finicum and co were doing was ultimately just trying to live in peace. I think it started about something to do with grazing rights, right? Just being able to eat the grass, that good old processed sunlight. And then, they ended up in that situation where they were, as Lavoie put it, going to work in I don't know if it was a state or federal building, but they found Paiute artifacts there and started trying to, connect with the Paiute people and create a correspondence and communicate and bring solutions forward and just, do things that they felt needed to be done without any red tape. And, there is, we could say, I don't want to say process, but there's steps for things to get done correctly. And it's hard to follow those steps. And a lot of us, we could just say we don't like the business world. Maybe we got a thing against money, or maybe we got issues with overconsumption of various things. Is what it is. But go ahead, Charlie.
I just wanted to address, because you're talking about a very beautiful interaction between Lavoie and Co. and the native tribes, indigenous tribes, however you want to refer to them. And that's a really critical element. But, here in terms of the Jural Assembly and what we've discovered in terms of the politics of the situation, they were involved with Uranium One, Hillary, Kate Brown, Harry Reid, these public servants doing their political schemes, and they didn't want any of this being revealed at all. So they had to nip it, and they nipped it by killing Lavoie and doing whatever they could to shut down this protest of the people. So there were two beautiful things going on. One was this reveal that, by the loss of this beloved life and all of the stuff that people had to go through. But there was the other beautiful, really, truly beautiful underlying thing that you're saying, was that they were just simply trying to be free. And this is why we exist as a Jural Assembly, is because Ron went to those trials. He was there supporting, and in fact met some other like-minded people who were there to support, all those involved.
So you are all in agreement, each one of you, on what primarily? What are like 3 tenets that you are coherent with together without the grammar?
God is first, I believe.
Mm-hmm. True freedom.
Family.
Yep.
Family, probably.
Yeah. True justice, be resolving our issues amongst ourselves and not relying on some authority figure, not being dependent. Yeah.
Okay, so the lack of codependency, or the shift of jurisdiction, where you take the jurisdiction back into your own and you set your own terms, and you commune on those terms. What are you in opposition with either one another within the grouping, or even regarding the grammar? What is a bone of contention that you come up against in trying to work this through?
We don't have one.
Cynthia?
My biggest bone of contention right now with regards to the grammar is trying to cross it over. And actually, I was really looking forward to Wednesday's meeting, because I was under the impression that we were going to get to talk about the common law court with full colon Russell hyphen J full colon period. And it didn't happen. And it was very disappointing, because I've been in his presence twice now and requested a talk and asked him if what we are doing is aligning, if we could get the grammar and, what steps could we start taking to move forward? Because it's not like we're just going to jump from one thing to the other. It's not that is not a reality. So
we don't want to deny what he's done, what he's accomplished.
I'm not denying. I'm amazed and in awe. And the Lord actually told me I am to learn it. So that isn't the issue with me. The issue is right now is that we need to know creatively how to take the next steps in that realm, and how to begin to apply it to what we do, so that we can make more people aware. It's taken us a long time to get the patriots and other people to even look at us. And my part of what I do with the Jural Assembly is I actually have my foot in one world, and I use my sovereignty to move it in and out of the political realm, you guys, in government. And I do know how evil it is. And I speak this stuff that I'm saying right now to you in Multnomah County, the biggest county, the county that whatever it wants is what it's going to get in this state. And I say it in front of groups all over in every county in this state. I have told people about what we're doing and how to get out of it and what we need to do. And you know what, you guys, everybody agrees. Guess what? The kind of people I talk to, they agree. They just don't know how to do it. And they're actually afraid of what we do.
Mhm.
They're afraid.
So what have you what have you done lately? What is the Sorry, I can't help it. But what really have you stood on most recently?
We've been in the court. We've been in a circuit court situation on Lane County, as witness and as a court of our own right, in that court, on those premises. We held our own court and named our own authority outside before the court happened. We couldn't do it within the court, but we actually repeated the statement in the court before the judge came in. And it was very moving because we read it in unison. And so what we're doing is we're inserting our court into their court. We're saying, hey, guys, we see you. We know what you're doing. In fact, I had this interesting conversation with someone, and he was talking about circuits, and there was an S removed, so it's circuit court. And I thought, oh, no, it's really IT gets removed, and it's circus, the circus courts, because they really are. They're just clown-like if it wasn't so serious about what they're imposing on how they're trafficking people and really treating us like chattel. And it's such a sham. And the most disturbing thing was when we were watching the jury pool come in. There must have been 45 or 50 people stream into that courtroom, and they filled the courtroom. And so our assembly member was asking, he must have asked between 37 and 38 questions of these people who were proposed jurists and had volunteered or willingly gone. And they didn't know anything that he was asking or addressing. They knew nothing. And we were told right in the very beginning, because we wanted to address the whole fact that there's a responsibility that jurists have. And so provided a document, and Ron was handing it out before we went into the building. And the judge called it out and said that we were jury tampering. And Cynthia, you want to say what they told us in the court? I mean, the whole thing was such a sham. What happened? We were accused of
being provocateurs and trying to shut down the court and disrupt it, and that we were paid to do it.
The court's already shut. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
We know that.
But
we
they continue.
That, but they continue, as you well know, Kennan. You know what they do, no matter whether they're shut or not shut.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they're still harvesting people no matter what.
They are still harvesting no matter what happens. They're still there, and they're still inserting themselves into people's lives and destroying them. And it's our job to, yes, it is all about the money. And it's our job to actually shut them down using their own laws that they created. When I came into all this, that is exactly what the Lord told me. You will use their laws and their way to actually take them out against them. We'll use it against them to take that out. And when we originally started into this, we actually tried to see if they would work with us in the process. I don't know how many documents have we filed, you guys?
Oh.
How many documents have we mailed to DAs, and how many has been done on this one case alone? Ron, do you know?
Well over 100.
Yeah.
And this is
And
volunteer, of course. I mean, you're all doing this just because you feel
yep,
the need to do this and come together and do that.
yep.
If you could do one thing by which everything else would change, what's the first one thing you would do? What's the next thing as you stand together today and look forward? What is that?
Kenan?
Join the Oregon Territory with the contracting states of our world corporation. If I had any control, if I had the cognition capacity to author a treaty to sort of bridge the fact situation of the Oregon Territory with the fact of the contracting states of war. Well, it's already been done technically. I'm just sort of lacking knowledge in a lot of areas that there's so many different rabbit holes that I can go into that are actually more, fact holes to follow in a certain sequence that for some reason I haven't
But
been able to
you would
the
merge what together? Say it again from the beginning.
the Oregon Territory with the contracting states of our world corporation.
Okay, so that would
Formerly the
basically
United
bring
States.
Oregon back into what Russell did, is what you're saying? It would come
Well, I
into
think
joinder into what
he already
he's done?
did it, and this is kind of there's been a lot of work that's been done, and I don't mean to spit on anyone's work that they've done, but Russell kind of beat everyone to the punch, to my comprehension. He and David and Monty, or Fulco and Monty and Fulco and David, created a meritocracy-based system from the results of, or the salts of the former United States of America failing to comply with the federal guidelines for handling the bankruptcy that ended in 1999. And, a lot of people, they go back to the 1800s. They, talk about slavery and, what our school systems have taught happened back then. And people think that slavery ended, but really they just expanded the enterprise with the birth certificate system. And granted, it didn't come about till, just before or right around the beginning of the third and final bankruptcy. I think, 1929, if I ran that timeline comprehension right. But there's just solutions that are already on the table that people aren't clicking in their head. And it's like, the question becomes, how do we get people up to speed and out of color of law, out of subjective interpretation? Do we have to use the Babel language, or can we strictly use facts to do this together? Together is the key part.
Yes, together. Though one man has corrected a system in 1999, it also takes together to call him forward so that maybe all of your work is unnecessary and it would be much easier to get to the end goal of what you're aiming at. And calling him forward may save a lot of time, in my opinion. And seeing that's just my opinion. I think your work is so honorable, and it's so amazing since I've met you all to watch you work together and how you work things out, how you conduct yourselves at any given time when you're working together. Now, of course, you're going to have your disagreements and your spats and the things that may seem like separation, but you are unified. You are kind of glued together for a common purpose, no matter what. And you're unique, which brings a different element to the table.
We don't have spats in the assembly. We just don't. We always come to an agreement. It's pretty fluid, I would say, quite fluid.
That's nice. Kenan, what were you going to say?
Russell didn't just create a meritocracy or a qualifications-based system. He created a system of trust. And, really thinking clearly about it, when people are using this fiction, fraudulent grammar, neurolinguistic programming system, it makes sense. You know, being in the world as a fact, but not of it, it makes sense to not really trust people who are using fraudulent grammar, because that essentially means that their thinking is fraudulent. And that's kind of something that just clicked in my brain. That, you know, the system of trust, it's hard to trust people, and that's, you know, because of all the really just screwed up things that have happened since 99, you know, going forward 2001, 9/11. It's hard to trust people, especially people that work within the system. And you can't blame someone who wants to be in their own space with their family and, you know, in their own little world. You can't blame them for not wanting to connect with fraudulent terms, you know, if that's
Well,
not
it's
the
kind of
world
all
you
they
want to
know,
live in.
really. And until you know something else, you don't know. So
Yeah.
in this case, people have acquired different layers of knowledge. I mean, Cynthia comes from a very devout and I would say even partially religious background, but she's very spiritual, and Charlie's very spiritual. And Ron, I don't know how you see it, except for you stand with God. So there has to be a common thread in all of that, no matter which angle you're coming from. And the commonality of purpose is what I'm aiming at with what my commentary is to you. Your purpose has a thread of unity in it, a thread of joinder, and that joinder has brought you into the willingness to stand with one another, which is coming back to your point, Will Colin Keenan, that when you don't trust your fellow man, it's difficult to stand with them through anything. And you all are taking on the heavy things, even without the grammar. You're taking on the heavy things, standing in the firing line. And with that, you're unified. You're coming together in this joinder because you're with that thread of trusting one another somehow. Even if you don't agree always, you trust one another. And I think that's very, very important for all peoples to hear.
Mhm.
Cynthia?
It goes back to what actually makes the Jural Assembly work is a couple of things. It goes back to we all believe in the Creator. God is number one. We all believe in family, which scripturally speaking is God, family, and then your job. I mean, there is an order, a universal order to the way things are supposed to be done. And that's the order that we take. And we all agree on good and evil. We all see what's good as good, and we all see what's evil as evil. There is no division in that. That's what makes this work, and that's what makes us move forward.
Yeah.
And we're looking. We don't know what we're doing. I was led here by God. I was led to do what I've been doing for the last 3.5 years by the Lord. They all, and I know that if each you ask them, they would have a different way of saying what I just said. They may not use my words to say it, but it would pretty much mean the same thing. So,
Well, you're all definitely in unison.
yeah,
I use these UN words, and everybody who's a postmaster is
I
freaking out on the
know.
sideline, but go with me because I'm going between
Say
worlds. But
IPY.
it's, I just
Yeah.
want to point out, can I just say, there are a lot of postmasters in this room right now. This is probably like you know, a small, tiny amphitheater here. We've got 4 of them on screen right now, and that's pretty neat. I mean, we've got 4 people that can sign through that stamp lawfully and have that jurisdiction, just like I pointed out, and I keep saying, remember, You can't have your face on the $1 coin unless you're a postmaster, unless you have the laws of the mechanics and stand by your personal oath of those laws, which I'm sure is an agreement in heart and soul, but in the mechanic of it, I think that's where we're is the mechanics lines. You know, which jurisdiction and which jurisdiction. But in fact, what Kennan was getting at is that Russell trumped jurisdictions, no pun intended, and took them all down. So where that stands is what's left is correctness, and you are already in joinder on correctness. It's just a matter of how do you correct that and then implement it so that let's say hypothetically what Fulco and Kennan said is you take it and you bring it into that joinder and you find the right steps and the mechanics to do that, whatever that would be. Then what would you do? Let's say it happened and you got it done. What would you all do? You're working so hard, you're fighting for this. But let's say you get there, then what? What happens?
Well, I would say personally, because a lot of the people who have worked with us and been on our grand jury and been involved in some of the events that we've gathered together, that a lot of them are spiritually inclined, number one. And we came together actually through a spiritual foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that, you know, humanitarian projects were part of that impetus for getting together and looking forward to some of the shifts that are happening in our monetary system, in our political structure, all of it falling down, falling apart, and a new era, a new energy, a new creative, free way of being, far more conscious. Where we have humanitarian projects. And what I've dreamed of doing is actually having a center, a common law center, where people actually can come and learn about how to take responsibility within our own communities and in our own self-governance, rather than relying on authority figures or politicians. The whole political scene, I mean, politics is even a construct, and the parties are constructs. It's all construct. So to function as beings of light and love in a community amongst ourselves together to support one another and get the work done in our communities that needs to be done without relying on funding and all of the things that drive people to the polls. What's that? You know? So it's just taking personal responsibility, and so building a community of shared responsibility. That's one of my goals. I would love to do something like that, which I see is this is a segue, you know.
Yes, it's important. I mean, you are the only people really doing this. This is incredible. And so let me go one by one and ask you this question. First, Charlie, if you could have asked Russell a question, what would you have asked him?
Give us your time to let us know how we can do what we're doing the most effectively. And to whom do we address it? And how do we do that?
Okay. And Ron, if you could ask Fulco and Russell J. Cohen Gould a question, what would you ask him?
The same thing. In fact, I have many times, and he does not respond. I yield.
Cynthia?
Well, I want to know the same things they do too, but I want to know what version of the Bible he went in and syntaxed. Did he do it from the original Greek, the original Hebrew, Aramaic? How did you do it? I want to know. That's I know that that's funny, and I want him to. I want to know in small steps how to begin to shift what we're doing into what he's doing, because I'll say it again. It's not going to like happen like immediately. This takes time to learn. Ron and Charlie's been at this for well over 20 years each. I've been at this for 3.5 maybe 4. I don't know. I'm like an infant when it comes to all this.
We all are equal level playing
We're
field.
just
We can learn
learning.
this world, not really
So
knowing much.
Kenan, what would you ask him?
Oh, off guard. What is the one jurisdiction you had the most trouble with?
Well, I think I remember him telling me or us. It's hard to say these days when it was
I have more questions.
me or
So
an
many.
us, because there's been so many conversations over time or interviews or time spent. But he's made the point several times about the rigorous training he had to go through regarding the Navy. And that was really hard on him. And also the courts, but the Navy is something that he's definitely expressed. And what that was, because remember, he has to know things and has to uphold a kind of position and jurisdiction where essentially he probably can't get that wrong. So there's quite a bit to take on there. And so he said that a few times. But that's a good question. These are all really great questions. And yeah, so we'll cross our fingers that either he hears this and answers you, or he'll come along and answer that. So go ahead, Charlie.
I'm just reading the chats, and it says,
Mhm.
someone, I got that, but what Charlie said, he would not answer. It's not that he didn't answer. It's just that we need more time of his undivided time to be able to learn. And I know he's not even really teaching right now. He's taking time out, but there's so much to learn. And we, because we are so far along in what we're doing with the work we've been doing over the years, we need just, a couple punches here, just one-on-one to just, be able to address this directly with him and have him say, well, that's anyway, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to clarify that answer. It's not that he didn't answer, because Cynthia and I both asked the same questions of him, each independently, in both venues where we had seen him. And we definitely had an opportunity to engage with him. But I'm talking about being able to have him look at our documents and tell us what it is that we need to do differently as a SEMBLY. Okay, so that's all. Go ahead, Kenan.
Well, if Ron has something to say, go for it.
No, he's
No,
agreeing.
it's up to you, Kenan. Go ahead.
You know, I'm having a brain fart moment. We give our time to each other, and it's like it is said that expectation is the root of all suffering. And another question that I have would be, what is the quickest, most efficient way of ending the pantomime, the fiction, fantasy, fairy tale of the de facto government and the lies and the harvesting mechanisms and all their different forms? A lot of people would concur that it's bringing you forward. But their biggest, like as Chief has put it, bread and butter psyop is keeping the people falsely divided, keeping them in poverty. And I'm not trying to put words into his mouth, but I myself put some effort and time and energy. I participated with the Amicus Curiae task force, and it was slow at first, but when momentum started to pick up and the workload sort of became burdensome, when I've barely been making month-to-month rent, because that's the status of where I'm at, and my capacity for life, I guess. So we only have the time and the energy currency that we have to give, and time is the biggest currency. So to Chief, gratitude for all the time that you've given to the general public, and thank all the other postmasters for their genuine service to fellow mankind. We all just want to see a better quality of life. We want to see life, liberty, and the suit of happiness, I guess. I don't know if "per" is a negative context, but either way, we want to see that for our fellow mankind. And as Chief has said, the people need to see good guys winning, and all it takes is a little exchange of communication and time.
Great. Well, I think that what you're doing is setting some powerful groundwork. You've established yourselves. You've come together as a cohesive unit. You're working in tandem here, and where you take that next will be really interesting to see. What is it that you're up against that you have to take on next, or you're going to tackle? What's the next assignment or appointment that you're working with there? Assignment.
Anything parasitic. Tackle anything parasitic. Get all these parasites out.
So Charlie and Bobby.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, so
Yeah.
Wednesday morning, we are going to the federal building to talk with Justice, I guess she's a attorney. Anyway, federal attorney, White, her name is White. And she's actually not meeting with us. It'll be a representative, but Bobby is demanding that they start undoing the damage they've done here with our assembly member and the courts that are so fake and so unnecessary and harmful, and to address it. And he and I are going in Wednesday morning to demand that they pay attention to what it is that we are doing and have been doing, and change it.
We'll definitely mand them instead. Mand them to pay attention.
Yes, mand them.
Mand them. We'll get rid of
That's
the
right.
D and they'll
Thank
go
you.
away.
Thank
That'll be
you.
a parasitic outing. Tell them that. We demand you to go away.
Yeah.
So
So by their own laws, it will bring the military into this.
Yes.
Their laws.
Yes.
Remember what I said?
Yeah.
We'll use their laws to bring
how
them
do you
down.
bring the military into it, technically?
Well,
how does that happen?
Ron, you explain that.
Ron?
I think we're going to go through the provost marshal, and I'm not exactly sure how. We're searching out that jurisdiction now. Working with FOIA requests through the Department of Justice and through the headquarters of the Marine Corps, just in case it goes through the Marine Corps. But I'm pretty sure, and I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that this is not going through the military and it's not going through the judicial. This is going through medical. This is coming about through giant pharma and the medical. I thought it was judicial and law and all that, but it's not. This is medical that we're into. I yield.
Kennan?
I just would like to ask Chief myriads of questions that I know he probably does or likely doesn't have time for. For example, what are the many roles of the stabilization force?
Speak a little louder again. What's the many roles? What?
For example, what are the myriads of roles, or what are the roles for the stabilization force? What's the function exactly? Like, I'd like to see more breakdown on that, and how it ties into maybe space, and how space, all things to do with space in terms of how our military has corresponded with space is, to my comprehension, through the Navy, some of it through the Air Force, but you see a lot of
geospatial thing I keep talking about.
Yeah.
Because you're vectoring. Okay, so just a point of interest. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just have to say this while it's on my mind. I spoke with some people and I showed some folks what I got back from the post office, which came from that agency, the geospatial whatever post office when I corrected my address. And it came from that, through the post office. Now, from what I understand, if anybody's in this room that has also gotten a paper like that, please raise your hand and tell me, because so far nobody has. And I'm scratching my head going, how is this possible? What is this then? But it did tip me off to what you're talking about, because we are porting. When you change your address in the quantum, you are porting into, they have to port you, actually. They have to bring you into joinder with what you're hinting at here, the vectoring of you and where you be, the vectoring of your geospatial coordinates. I believe that goes through the military, and that's the paperwork I got back, this geospatial agency or whatever, and I can show that. It's amazing. It's like, well, I was confused at first when I looked at it, but it definitely came through the post office, and the postmaster sent it to me. But it has on there officially the geospatial, I don't know if it's agency or whatever, but that is, and they have those. They are military operations all around. But I believe it's a vectoring is what I'm telling you. They are literally vectoring you. You are declaring a vectoring point of communication. And I'm happy to be corrected if that's not right and Russell has more to say on it. I'm just telling you my experience of that paperwork, which alerted me to what you're saying. But go ahead.
That was a big download. That the way you brought that forward actually made a lot of sense. Now, you asked us a question earlier, and I can't remember the exact question. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know, the way it's holding in my brain right now is, you know, with the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly, you know, what's our biggest you know, issue? And I personally would like to say cloudiness. Now, it's funny that, or not funny, but you know, a really valuable point that Cynthia was making about going at the health system, and you know, crossing that with what your experience with the health system has been, Winifred, and you being a person that knows the capacity of the infinite intelligence within the body to heal itself and do what some people would consider miraculous things, but really it's just a biological science mastery.
Well, it is a function of grace meeting a atomic structure, and it changes the flux of the atomic structure based on the grace and your receptivity to the grace. So that changes the biofield. Most people are not in it for grace. They want to see a miracle, and then they're arrogant. But really, it's the grace that when you allow the grace to come in, it's not like anything else you apply that to. When the grace comes in, it's like prayer. Prayer takes volition and reorganizes the matter, reorganizes that. So grace is similar, except for it's given to you if you receive it. But excuse me.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying, go on.
Oh, I if you let me, I ramble and I ramble and I ramble, and you know, it's.
Well, let me make one more point about the Port Authority. You're talking medical. From what I understand, with a private meeting I had with Russell during the time of COVID and the nurses, he was trying to help safeguard them, and he made it a real point that they have to not only get a claim of the life, but he laid out the steps they had to take for the filing, which always goes through the Port Authority. Because the hospitals and all medical communities are vessels in dry dock, he laid that out, and you have to go back through the Port Authority to file, and you need to do it in the quantum to file to change that. Now, he did change the jurisdictions with all medical and hospitals, but of course they're trying to weasel around that and make mandates, and they're just, like Cynthia found out in one of our previous interviews, they are just intimidating and tyrannically harming people in those places. So that is the scarier part of it. You're going for aid, and instead you get either abducted or your loved one can't
Warehoused.
see you, or
Mhm.
you don't come out again. So the filing, I know, has to go through the Port Authority, and that's the truth on most things that are going on. It has to file through the Port Authorities.
Mhm.
So we'll have just a minute of silence. Let's just take a second, the whole of us, and just kind of just be still for a second and just settle all the energies in love. In changing this volition and changing the heart space toward the aim of a common goal, a common collective, we may be able to move that needle much quicker than banging our head against the wall and
Mhm.
the step-by-step movement. It may come exponentially quicker. So Cynthia, I'd like you to please close for us tonight with a prayer, because I know that your heart is so open to that, and Charlie started us off, and
Mhm.
I would like you to complete that loop tonight.
So, Lord, I just thank you for this gathering of hearts and minds, and for the goodness that you are showing each and every one of us as we walk into you, as we walk in to your truth and your majesty and your goodness and your grace and your love and your mercy, Lord. And I ask that you would just give every single one of us wisdom and passion and tenacity to move in the realm that you've put each of us in, and that we would pick up the tools that you've given to each of us, and that we would use them, Father, and just help us to move forward in formation now. Lord, as you're bringing more and more people together, I see more and more people gathering across the nation, across the world, and Lord, that are of one mind and one accord. And Father, let our light begin to merge into one and weave, and make the weave so strong that the darkness can no longer penetrate, and that we will be free, that we will be a free people, that we will walk in freedom and truth, your freedom and truth. And I just ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Cynthia.
much. Thank you. We all come together with a common volition, and I just want to share a visual with you, please. That was beautiful. Several years ago, I was asked to go and sing God Bless America at Shea Stadium. And it was after an airplane blew up off the coast of Long Island. And the people were rattled. It was after 9/11. It was like in 2004, I think. And when I got there, it was any regular day at the baseball stadium. And when you look out, there's the big screen and then the river. And so you're standing there and you're facing toward the river and the big screen, and there's a delay like there was earlier in this. And you start, and when I started, I could see the light of all the souls of the people in the stadium.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it became a wave of light. And I was so in awe of this, I kind of like turned as I was singing and looked around watching the light, and it gathered all the light of the whole stadium and moved it. And then you could hear the people.
Whew.
It was It wasn't my singing, I promise you, because I heard it again later. It was their light coming together. I'm getting chills. Their light coming together in the joinder, and they themselves inspired themselves in that stadium as a reminder of spirit with them in that moment, and that's what they needed. I mean, it was so powerful. It was one of the most extraordinary moments of a public gathering. And men would come up to me afterwards and they'd grab me and they'd cry and they'd say, that was incredible. It wasn't me, it was the spirit they felt as the unity of those spirits. That's what happened. It was the voice was muted essentially. It was the light that traveled. I've never seen that since. It was absolutely extraordinary. And to keep that visual, because that's what's going to happen. I think it might start with you guys.
Someone wants you to sing the first verse.
Sing Amazing Grace.
What's that? Wait, say again.
You have been asked to sing Amazing Grace, the first verse.
Winifred, you got an amazing voice.
Please do.
I
Please
know
do.
you like to sing, so if
Honor
that's
us with
what
your
the people
singing.
want, yep, be grateful for you. I'd be grateful if you did that too.
Oh, I don't know if I could do Amazing Grace right now, but
I'm not good with remembering lyrics either.
I think I could probably try, even though I'm tired of a little bit of God Bless America. And let's see here. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. There we have it, folks.
Thank you. Thank you, Winifred.
This land is your land. This land is my land.
I'll work on the other one.
Amen.
I don't know how that came through this, but anyway. All right,
Thank you,
everybody.
Winifred. This was really delightful. Really
Glad you all
grateful to
came.
be here.
Everybody, go jolly. Have a sweet evening. Thank you to all the statewide Jural Assembly on Oregon and maybe of the Oregon eventually. I know Ron said in the beginning it's of the, and all these things are to be worried about, but perhaps if they're punctuated, it's not to be worried about. So let's take that as a fact, and the point is to be together. So
You're here.
all right.
For the likewise of the gratitude is with the Winifred by this postmaster and live.
Gratitude, everybody. Gratitude to all of you
Much love.
out in the chat who came.
Thank you.
And let's do this, okay? So lots of love. And all righty, we will gather again. And thank you to all the postmasters. Thank you to Full Colon Kennan. Thank you to Full Colon Charlie. Thank you to Full Colon Cynthia. And thank you to Ron. And we'll put your colons in brackets because it's coming. And you'll be the de facto until we make you.
Fellow
Beautiful.
man kind.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful hearts and
Thank
souls
you.
tonight. Thank you, everybody. Go jolly. And we will see you here again soon. Okay? Have a sweet and safe weekend. Happy Memorial Day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.